How long should I cut my pipes? What type of propellants should I use? Am I going to die if I make the gun wrong? Next, I found the most common 6 to 8 questions people were asking and created an outline. Module number 1. How to decide which type of gun you want to create. Oh, what's a pneumatic gun? Oh, what size gun should we build? Oh, how do you build a bolt-action spud gun? Module number 2. How to pick the right pipes. Oh, what type of pipe do you use? Oh, do the PSI ratings on the pipes matter? Module number 3. How to find accessories before you start building. Oh, what type of igniter should I use? Oh, barbecue lighter or lantern igniter. Module number 4. How to cut the right barrel to chamber volume ratio. Oh, how long should I cut my pipes? Oh, what happens if my chamber is too big or too small? Module number 5. How to assemble the pieces. Oh, how do I assemble the gun? Oh, what tools do I need to make my spud gun? Module number 6. How to increase potato flight distance. Oh, what type of propellants should I use? Oh, what if my gun won't shoot? Module number 7. How to stay safe while shooting your potato gun. Oh, am I going to die if I make the gun wrong? Oh, has anyone ever died from a potato gun? After you have the questions and the outline, there's one more step that gives you a really cool asset to use when you start selling your masterclass in the future. People have just told us exactly what they want to know, right? So take all the questions and rewrite them as bullet points to use in sales letters, ads, emails, webinars, and lots of other places. Question: what type of pipe do you use? Do the PSI ratings on the pipes matter? Bullet: discover the only pipe we will ever use and the secret PSI rating that will guarantee your potatoes go farther and your gun lasts longer. Question: which type of igniter should I use, barbecue or lantern? Bullet: find out which igniter we'll never use, and hear about a scary near-death experience that kept us from ever using it again, and why there is only one brand we trust. Question: how long should I cut my pipes? Bullet: you'll learn the correct barrel-to-chamber ratio that will keep you safe and help your gun shoot 25% farther. Warning: even being a quarter-inch off could make every potato you shoot a flop. Question: what type of propellants should I use? Bullet: discover the secret propellant we accidentally stumbled upon when we ran out of hairspray that immediately made our gun shoot over 50 yards farther every time. Question: am I going to die if I make the gun wrong? Bullet: learn the safety secrets we use to make sure every potato gun outing is safe as well as exciting. Rewriting all the questions into bullet points will help make what you teach so much more exciting to your students. And it will make writing your marketing materials easier later on. At this point, you have an outline, which is really a table of contents. You could write a book from here, if you wanted to. All you have to do to deliver an amazing masterclass is find the answers to their questions and teach them in a way that will facilitate the best results. The participants will be happy because you're answering their questions. You're giving them exactly what they want. Step number 4, deliver your free masterclass. To make running your first masterclass simple, you really only need 2 tools, a Facebook group and Facebook Live, both free. Set up a private Facebook group so your beta members can interact with each other. A group allows you to post content, give class updates, provide accountability, and deliver any bonuses. Later on, you can make a membership site and get a little fancier, but for now you're just looking at getting some results for a group of people with your new opportunity. Next, you need some technology to help you deliver the masterclass. Recently we started using Facebook Live inside our member group to deliver the live training. It works really well, especially if you're starting on a budget. There are other webinar platforms you can use as well. Platforms come and go, but my favorites right now are GoToWebinar.com or Zoom.us for webinars, or www.instantteleseminar.com for audio teleseminars. You'll also need to let people know how to access the class. When is it being held? Where do they log in? What materials might they need to bring? You can give them the information inside your private Facebook group. As for teaching the actual class, everyone has a different teaching style. You might decide to use PowerPoint slides in a webinar format, or you might just want to talk on the phone with the teleseminar format. And while I don't think it matters what format you actually teach it in, I do highly recommend using the storytelling skills that you'll be learning in Section 2 of this book to get people to listen and make lasting changes. So now that you have your vehicle for change in a newly created blue ocean niche and a beta group of members you can start getting results for, you may be thinking, but Russell, when do I start making money? We're going to start addressing that in the next section. After you've completed your masterclass and have some great results that prove what you can do for people. That's the goal from this first section. The results you get from this beta group will become the fuel that grows your expert business. Section 2: Creating Belief. The first section of this book was all about understanding who you must become and what you must create to start building your mass movement. In this section, we shift focus to how you create certain beliefs in the minds of your followers. These beliefs allow them to be more receptive to the opportunities you're offering. When people have absolute belief in what you are telling them, you can positively influence them. The longer I work in this business, the more I realize how everything comes down to one thing: belief. Belief creates the customer. Belief creates the results. You must persuade people to believe in what you are doing, and you do that by mastering the art of storytelling. Secrets number 5 through number 10 will give you the foundation you need to tell stories that make your audience believe. Secret number 5. The Big Domino. I was sitting in a room with about 120 other successful entrepreneurs, all of whom made at least $1 million a year, a requirement to be in that room. One of the featured keynote speakers was Tim Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek. After his presentation, he opened up the floor for questions. A woman stood up and asked, "Hey Tim, you seem to get so much done. What is it that you do all day?" He paused for a moment, then gave an awkward half-smile and said, "If you watched my daily routine, you'd be bored out of your mind. Most people wake up every morning with a task list of 1,000 things to do. They go through the day trying to knock down all these things. I wake up every morning and I meditate. I drink tea or coffee. I go for a walk, and maybe I read a book." He said he might spend 3 or 4 weeks doing that and nothing else. "My whole goal is to slow down and look around. Instead of looking for all the tasks that I could do, I try to identify the one big domino, the one thing that, if I could knock that down, all the other dominoes would either fall down or become irrelevant." When he said that, I had an aha moment. I haven't yet figured out how to implement this in my personal life. But when it comes to how I sell things, he was 100% right. The first step to creating belief is figuring out the one thing you have to get someone to believe that will knock down all their other objections, make them irrelevant, or disappear altogether. A little while later, I was talking to a friend and mentor, Perry Belcher. He told me how he had gone back and analyzed all the different offers that his companies had created and sold over the past 10 years. He discovered that the more things they asked someone to believe in their sales pitch, the worse the offer converted. In fact, he figured out that if they tried to make more than one point or ask someone to focus on more than one thing in a sales message, conversion rates dropped by half. He then said, "Look at how many things a prospect has to believe in order to buy what you're selling. If it's more than one, you need to rework your sales presentation." After hearing that, I knew we had to go back and look at everything we were selling. We asked ourselves, what's the one thing? What is the one big domino of belief that we need to knock down? Every product has one big domino, one thing that will knock down all the smaller objections and resistance. If we can get people to believe in that one thing, then they will have to buy it. I took a logic class in college that showed different ways to create valid arguments. One of the many valid argument forms is called modus ponens. It looks like this. If A, then B, A therefore B. If I were to put this argument into a sentence, I'd say something like, if Dallin doesn't finish his homework, then he will not go to class. Dallin did not finish his homework. Therefore, Dallin will not go to class. If you think about it, you'll start to see patterns of this argument everywhere. Religion is an easy example. In Christianity, everything hinges upon the truth of the Bible. If someone believes the Bible is true, then they have no other option than to believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior. If he is truly the Savior, then all the other concerns you have about Christianity disappear. If the Bible is true, then Jesus is the Savior. The Bible is true. Therefore, Jesus is the Savior. As a Christian, if I can get someone to believe the Bible, they're one big domino, then it knocks down every other domino and makes any other argument irrelevant to the person who has that belief. But it's not just in religion. We see this happening everywhere around us, from politics to sports to the people we spend time with. That's why it's hard to have an argument with someone about something they truly believe in. When that seed of belief is there, it doesn't matter how much you try to convince them otherwise, it has already knocked down all the other smaller dominoes that you're trying to stack back up. The one thing, aka the big domino statement, when we launched ClickFunnels, I tried to figure out the one key belief that I needed my audience to understand and believe. I came up with this basic statement. If I can make people believe that my new opportunity is / are key to what they desire most, and is / are only attainable through my specific vehicle, then all other objections and concerns become irrelevant and they have to give me money. If I can get someone to truly believe that the new opportunity is the key to what they want the most, and they can only get it through my vehicle, then they have no other options but to buy. This is the key to launching your movement. Belief. Here is what I used for ClickFunnels. If I can make people believe that funnels are the key to online business success and are only attainable through ClickFunnels, then all other objections and concerns become irrelevant and they have to give me money. When someone believes they have to have a funnel, and they do, and that I'm the only way they can get one, then they have to buy ClickFunnels. There is no other option. I've helped my inner circle members create these statements for their businesses. We discovered that if we're struggling to make a valid argument that works, it's typically because we didn't create a new opportunity, but instead have an improvement offer. If we haven't created a blue ocean, then the argument won't be valid. For example, I've seen statements that say something like, if I can make people believe that cutting calories and exercising is the key to losing weight, and is only attainable through my new weight loss course, then all other objections and concerns become irrelevant and they have to give me money. That statement is not true. If the belief you are trying to give them is that they need to cut calories and exercise, there are a few problems. 1. You are not in the prolific zone, you are in the mainstream. 2. This is not a new opportunity. There are thousands of identical programs crowding the niche of cutting calories and exercising. 3. This is not a blue ocean. They could literally buy one of 100 different products to satisfy the belief you created. I would need to change my niche and my opportunity to be something like this. If I can make them believe that getting their bodies into a state of ketosis is key to losing weight, and is only attainable through drinking Provit's ketones, which put the body into ketosis within 10 minutes, then all other objections and concerns become irrelevant and they have to give me money. The first step is creating your big domino statement. Once you have a statement that works and is true, the next step is to create real belief in your one thing. Secret number 6. The Epiphany Bridge. A few years ago, I helped a friend who was launching a new company. One of the guys working on the project wrote a script for a front-end sales video. The goal was to sell people into their new opportunity. After reading the script, I knew he'd made a huge mistake. He was trying to sell people on why they should join this new opportunity. Here's the email I sent him. What I've found is that if you just sell something, it's not as strong, and doesn't create the emotion you need to really cause action. If you want people to adopt a new concept and want to get their buy-in, you have to lead them to the answer, but you can't give it to them. They have to come up with the idea themselves. You plant the idea in their minds with a story, and if they come up with the answer, they will have sold themselves. The buying decision becomes theirs, not yours. When that happens, you don't have to sell them anything. He wrote back, a little confused, and told me that my idea sounded like it came from the movie Inception, and asked me to take a shot at writing the sales script. I spent the next few hours writing an Epiphany Bridge script, which later helped that company acquire 1.5 million users in just 3 short months. That is the power of a story when you use it the right way. So what is an Epiphany Bridge? It's simply a story that takes people through the emotional experience that got you excited about the new opportunity you're presenting to them. There's a reason you got excited about your new opportunity, right? Something happened to you at some point in your life. You had an amazing experience that caused an epiphany. You thought, wow, this is so cool. The first time I learned how to sell things online, I had an epiphany. The first time I learned about funnels, I had an epiphany. We're having these little aha moments all the time. The first time you discovered your expert topic, something happened that excited you. You had an emotional response that sold you on this new opportunity. Do you remember what the experience was? Do you remember how you felt? That first aha moment created so much excitement for you that you started on a journey where you studied everything you could find about the topic. You started geeking out and going deep into the subject, learning all the terminology and understanding the science and technical aspects behind why it worked, and then you became logically sold on the new opportunity. Now at this point you've had an emotional connection with the new opportunity as well as a logical connection. Then, because you believe so much in what you're learning, you have a desire to share it with other people. But unfortunately for you, the first thing you try to do is logically convince everyone you know about this new idea. You probably expected them to be as excited as you were, but quickly found out that they were resistant to the new ideas. Has this ever happened to you? The problem is that you started to speak a language we call technobabble. One of my friends, Kim Claver, wrote a book called If My Product's So Great, How Come I Can't Sell It? In it, she identifies technobabble as the #1 sales killer. We all love our ideas so much. We want people to understand why they should follow us and use our products and services. But for some reason, as soon as we try to explain our beliefs to someone, we automatically start to spew the technobabble we've learned, in order to logically convince people to buy. We talk about why this concept is the best and potentially mention all the science behind what we do. We talk about how we're leading the industry with groundbreaking products. We share industry numbers and jargon. But all the logical stuff that strengthened our own beliefs in the new opportunity will not help people buy unless they've already had the same initial emotional epiphany that you had. All the logic, features, and benefits you give people before the epiphany will just annoy them. It's frustrating and often completely offensive. There's a time and a place for logic, but you have to convince them emotionally first, before they'll be excited by your logic. Think about it. You didn't buy into the new opportunity because of all the logical technobabble. You bought in because of some emotional experience that happened before you geeked out. You had an epiphany first, and that caused you to move forward. People don't buy logically, they buy based on emotion. Then they use logic to justify the purchase decision they've already made. For example, let's say I purchased a Ferrari. I am emotionally invested in the feeling I want to have when I'm driving it. That's why I bought the Ferrari, or a big house, expensive clothes, watches, etc. But then I have to logically justify to myself, my friends, or my spouse why it was worth spending all that money. I have to explain how it gets better gas mileage, it was on sale, it came with a great warranty. Logic is justification for the emotional attachment I've already made. If you think about it, there's a status consideration on both sides of this equation. I'm emotionally attached to the status that the new Ferrari will give me, but then I need to justify it logically to my friends and family so I don't lose status in their minds. But good luck selling me logically if I don't already have the emotional connection with that car. It's pretty much impossible. Logic doesn't sell. Emotions sell. So to create those emotions, you have to go back and remember what it was that gave you the epiphany that caused you to believe in the new opportunity. That story, your epiphany bridge story, provides the emotional connection, and bridges the gap from the emotional to the logical side. If you can tell a story about how you got your big aha, and if you structure the story right, they will have the same epiphany and will sell themselves on your product or service. Then they'll look for ways to logically justify the purchase and learn all the technobabble on their own. Your job is to learn how to tell these stories in a way that will lead people to the epiphany, and they will do the rest. So my first question for you is, what was your core epiphany bridge story that convinced you of the one thing you are sharing with others? We'll worry about how to structure that story over the next 2 secrets, but for now, I want you to think back to the original experience that gave you your first epiphany, that brought you on this journey. Do you remember what happened? What was happening around you? How did you feel? It's important to remember those details, because they are the key to telling a good story. Effective storytelling. Have you ever noticed that two people can tell the same story with completely different outcomes? In one, you're emotionally captivated and engaged. Then someone else tells you a story about the exact same experience and you fall asleep. What's the difference? What makes some people better storytellers than others? There are lots of reasons, but you don't have to know them all to tell a great story that gets prospects to buy. It only takes a couple of things to really make a captivating and interesting story. The first key to telling captivating stories is oversimplification. When you're telling stories, you need to speak at about a third-grade level. Many of you will struggle with this because you like to use big words and show off your vocabulary and try to sound sophisticated and smart. There may be a time and a place for that, but it's not when you're telling stories. People are used to digesting information at about a third-grade level. When you go above that, you start losing people quickly. There is a reason the news stations speak to their audiences at this level. During the 2016 primary elections, a study looked at the speeches of the Republican candidates and ran them through the Flesch-Kincaid test that shows the grade level of their speech. Trump averaged a third to fourth grade level on each of his speeches, where other candidates like Ted Cruz had a ninth grade level and both Ben Carson and Mike Huckabee were at an eighth grade level. Using big words may make you feel smarter, but it will not influence others. But sometimes you have to talk about complex ideas. So how do you take a complicated idea and simplify it quickly? You do this using a tool I created called a kinda like bridge. Every time I run into a word or a concept that is past a third grade level, I stop and think about how I can relate that concept to something they already know and understand. The same way I would try to explain complex ideas to my kids. For example, in one of my sales scripts, I was trying to teach a process called ketosis, which is a way to lose weight. That sentence right there was a mini kinda like bridge. Did you notice that? In the sales script, I mentioned the word ketones, and I watched as the audience zoned out. I discovered that if they don't know what a word means, they stop paying attention to everything you say afterward. So I started using a kinda like bridge like this. The goal is to get ketones into your body. Now what are ketones? Well, they are kinda like millions of little motivational speakers running through your body that give you energy and make you feel awesome. I take this new concept or word that people may not understand and add the phrase, "it's kinda like," to the sentence. I'm connecting the new word or concept to something they already understand. Something that makes total sense to them, so they get it. My audience knows what a motivational speaker is. And they can imagine what it might feel like to have millions of little ones running around in their bodies. In that same script, I was trying to explain what it feels like to be in ketosis, and that's a hard thing to understand. It feels good. It feels awesome. So I had to take this concept and say, when you're in ketosis, it's kinda like the old video game Pac-Man, remember? You spent the whole game running away from the ghosts. But every once in a while, you get a power pellet and suddenly you get tons of energy, and then you're actually chasing the ghosts, and you feel on. That's what it feels like to be in ketosis. Again, I'm taking this concept that's vague and hard to understand and bridging it with something they do understand, using the phrase, kinda like. Anytime you're speaking, or writing, and you hit a friction point where some people may not understand what you're trying to convey, just say, "it's kinda like," and relate it to something easy to understand. This keeps your story simple, entertaining, and effective. Oversimplification is the key. How does it feel? The next way to improve your storytelling is to add in feelings and emotions. In film, it's often a lot easier to get people to feel something. One of my favorite examples of this is from the movie X-Men: First Class. In this movie, we are taken back into the X-Men's past and given a glimpse of what it was like for them growing up and discovering their powers. There was a scene where young Magneto was taken to a Nazi concentration camp, and as they pulled him and his family into the gates, they noticed the metal fences around their compound started to move as he started to resist them. They wanted to see what his powers were, so they brought him into a very small room with a Nazi leader who wanted a demonstration of his powers. They also brought Magneto's mother into the room, so they could use her as leverage to get him to do what they wanted. The leader points a gun at Magneto's mother and has him try to move a metal coin on the desk. He nervously tries to move the coin, but isn't able, so the leader pulls the trigger and kills his mother. And then you see a scene so powerful that, without a single word being said, you actually feel the pain that Magneto is going through. You watch as his eyes shift from sadness to anger. He then uses his powers to crush a bell on the Nazi leader's desk. From there, he starts yelling and moving everything metal inside the room. He crushes the guards' helmets, instantly killing them, and then completely destroys everything in the room. And that's when he found his power. When you're watching the film, you are able to see all of this happen without any words, because we can see his face, we can experience the room, we hear the music, and we actually feel, in some way, Magneto's pain and suffering. That is the power of films. Now most of us aren't producing films to sell our stuff, but we have to learn how to tell stories in a way that help others feel the same. Imagine if Magneto just came in and said something like, "Yeah, so when I was a kid, I was in a Nazi concentration camp and they wanted me to move a metal coin, but I wasn't able to do it, so they killed my mom. I was really mad, so I blew the whole place up." Did you feel anything there? No, you wouldn't have had the same emotional experience that you need to connect with that character. Yet that's how most people tell their stories. If you look at a good fiction author, they'll have the character come into a room, then spend several pages describing the room. They talk about the lights, how things looked and felt, and everything they need to set up the scene. Then they go deep into how the character is feeling. And that is the key. You have to explain how you feel, and when you do that, people will start to feel what you were feeling. For example, what if I tell a story like this? I was sitting at home, and I could hear my wife and kids in the other room playing. They had no idea what had just happened. I was sitting there freaked out because I knew the bills were due, but had no idea how I was going to pay them. I started to get a shooting pain in my stomach. It felt like a heart attack, but it was lower in my gut. I felt this pressure coming down and I literally felt like someone was sitting on my neck. It got so heavy that I couldn't lift my head. The only thing I could see were the palms of my hands, and they were sweating, yet I was freezing cold. My whole body was shaking and shivering because I was in so much pain and frustration, yet I was frozen with fear. As you read that story, you probably started to actually feel the things I explained. How many of you felt a pain in your gut, or a weight on your neck, or sweaty palms? By explaining how I felt, you almost instantly will feel something similar. When I tell a story this way, I am controlling the state of the person listening. It's essential that I control their state, and I do this by telling the story in a way that gets you to feel what I felt, so when I explain how I had my epiphany, you can experience the same epiphany. If I want you to have the same epiphany I had, you need to be in the same state that I was in when I had that epiphany. Have you ever had the experience where you told someone a story about a situation that was really funny or exciting, and after you told it to them, they didn't quite get it? They understood, but they didn't get what you were trying to share with them. So you try to tell the story again another way, and then again another way, and after a few attempts, you throw up your hands in defeat and say something like, "Well, I guess you had to be there." Now that you understand the basics of an epiphany bridge, how to simplify your stories, and how to get people to feel things when you tell your stories, I want to transition into story structure. When you learn the right structure for telling your stories and you apply the concepts you learned here, you will become a master at storytelling and story selling. Secret number 7. The hero's 2 journeys. For the past 10 years, I've focused on story selling to get people excited about the new opportunities one offer them. I didn't really have much structure. I just told a lot of stories and noticed that some of them encouraged my audience to believe and follow me, while others didn't have much impact at all. Over time, I became better and better at telling stories. But it wasn't until I met a guy named Michael Hoagie that I really started to understand story structure. Once I understood structure, I was able to craft stories so they always created the right environments for people to have the necessary epiphanies. One of my friends, Dagan Smith, started me on the path to creating or changing beliefs with stories. He told me to listen to an audiobook by Michael Hoagie and Christopher Vogler called The Hero's 2 Journeys. Michael has been one of Hollywood's top script consultants and story experts for more than 30 years. He's the guy that top screenwriters and directors call to make sure that their movies are following correct story structure for maximum emotional impact. Shortly after I listened to the book, Dagan and I hired Michael to speak at one of our events, showing us how to use stories to create belief in the minds of our customers. What he taught was fascinating and helped me become a better storyteller. This journey has been a huge focus for me over the past 5 years. I want to walk you through what I learned from the hero's 2 journeys. It will give you context for what a good story needs to be, and will help you craft your Epiphany Bridge stories. Good stories are really simple. There can be layers of complexity, but at the core they are all very simple. Depending on the complexities I share, I can tell the same story in 60 seconds or 60 minutes, all with the same desired effect. Every good story is built on 3 foundational elements: character, desire, and conflict, also known as the plot. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Red Riding Hood. She wanted to take a basket of cookies to her grandma, who lived in the woods. What she didn't know was that the big, bad wolf was waiting to gobble her up. Character: Red Riding Hood. Desire: take a basket of cookies to her grandma. Conflict: big, bad wolf. These are the basic elements of every movie, book, play, TV show, opera. Any type of story. After showing me this, Michael explained, every good story is about a captivating character who is pursuing some compelling desire and who faces seemingly insurmountable obstacles to achieving it. That's it. If you've got those 3 things, then you've got a good story. Your plot statement: the first Epiphany Bridge story you will tell is the one that got you excited about your new opportunity in the first place. Take a few minutes to think about your story. You are the character, so that step is easy. But what desire started you on your journey? What did you want to achieve? Write it down. Next, what was the conflict you experienced along the way? Write it down. Boom. You've got a plot. Now write out your basic plot in 1 sentence, like I did for Little Red Riding Hood above. Here is an example. Once upon a time, there was a guy named Russell Brunson, who wanted to figure out a way to support his new family without having to get a traditional job. So he started selling information products, potato gun DVDs, online. But one day, Google's ad costs tripled, and his little business dried up overnight. Character: Russell Brunson. Desire: support his new family. Conflict: Google's ad costs tripled and his business dried up overnight. That is the basic structure of every story. When I'm first building out my inventory of stories, which you will do in secret number 9, I always start with a plot statement. This allows me to tell the entire story in just a few seconds, if I need to. Or I can fill in the details and talk for hours. Now that you have the basic plot written out, let's dig deeper into each element so you have the tools you need to flesh out your stories and really hook into people's emotions. 1. Build rapport with the hero. The first 10% of any movie is all about building rapport with the hero, so we have a vested interest in their journey. If we don't build rapport with the hero in the story, then no one cares what else happens to them on their journey. If you do a good job of building that rapport up front, the audience will be engaged throughout the whole thing. You want people to get into a rapport with the hero quickly. The fastest way to do that is to connect with 2 or more of these core identities. Make the character a victim of some outside force, so we want to root for them. Put the character in jeopardy, so we worry about them. Make the character likable, so we want to be with them. Make the character funny, so we connect with them. Make the character powerful, so we want to be like them. After you've introduced the identities, it's time to introduce the character flaws that have caused you, as the hero, to struggle. Sharing flaws is critical to gaining rapport. No one cares about Superman until we introduce Kryptonite. He's an uninteresting character until he has flaws and weaknesses, and the same is true of any hero. Sometimes it's scary to share these flaws in your stories, but they are the key to building rapport. 2. Introduce the desire for something more. Every story is about a journey either toward pleasure or away from pain. The hero must have suffered some type of wound, or carry an unhealed source of continuous pain, in the backstory. Because the wound has never healed, it causes the fear and pain that drive the character. Usually, the hero desires to accomplish something they believe will heal that wound. There are 4 core desires that drive most heroes. 2 of them move the hero toward pleasure, and 2 move away from pain. Toward pleasure. To win, the hero may be trying to win the heart of someone they love, or they may want to win fame, money, a competition, or prestige. But as you now know, they are really looking for an increase in status. To retrieve, the hero wants to obtain something and bring it back. Away from pain. To escape, the hero desires to get away from something that's upsetting or causing pain. To stop, the hero wants to stop some bad thing from happening. The story describes the journey to achieving the desire. But in all good stories, the hero is actually on 2 journeys, the one that everyone sees, the journey of achievement, and one that's hidden, the journey of transformation. The second journey may not be as obvious, yet it's the key to the whole story. The journey of achievement, this is the first journey, the one that everyone listening to the story is aware of. There's a visible goal with a finish line that everyone can see. It's the reason the hero sets out on the journey in the first place. The audience is rooting for the hero to accomplish this journey. While this journey is what drives the story forward, it's the second journey that actually matters the most. In fact, in many stories, the hero never actually achieves his end desire. Or if he does, he gives it up for the real transformational journey that he's been on throughout the story. The journey of transformation. During the first 10% of the story, we learn about the character and the beliefs they have that make up their identity. A particular identity is very important to the hero at the beginning of the story, but along the way they become someone else, someone better. It's almost like the death of their old belief systems, and the resurrection or rebirth of a new person. This transformation is the real journey that our hero has actually been on. One of my favorite stories that shows this transformation of a character is from the animated movie Cars. Lightning McQueen has a very real goal he wants to achieve, to win the Piston Cup. The whole movie is centered around him getting to California so he can win. He stumbles upon conflict along the way, but eventually he gets to the big race. In the last scene, he's racing and about to finally achieve all his desires, but then the car he is racing against, the King, gets into a huge wreck. McQueen's win is guaranteed. But because he's been on a journey of transformation, he chooses to slam on his brakes just inches before the finish line and watches as Chick Hicks races past him for the win. He then backs up, drives over to the King, and pushes him across the finish line. The King then says, "You just gave up the Piston Cup." To which McQueen responds, "A grumpy old racing car once told me something, it's just an empty cup." Through this journey, he has been doing everything possible to achieve his greatest desires, and then at the last minute, he gives them up to become something more. We see the death and rebirth of his identity. We see the new beliefs he has created. We see his essence. That is the key to a great story. 3. Introduce the conflict. Desire is essential to the story because it shows the end goal. It provides a reason for the journey to move forward. But emotion doesn't come from the desire. It comes from the conflict the hero faces while trying to gain the desire. In pursuing the goal, there must be seemingly insurmountable obstacles. If it doesn't seem impossible for the hero to get what they want, people won't care as much. Our primary goal as storytellers is to elicit emotion, and you can't do that without conflict. Michael Hoagie showed me the patterns of conflict that are consistent with almost all Hollywood movies. There are 5 turning points that create the emotion in almost all films. As you review each one, think about every movie you've seen and how they fit into these 5 turning points of conflict. 1. The new opportunity. After you share the character's backstory, some event causes the character to physically leave where they are and start the journey. This new opportunity is what sets them off to achieve their desires. This leads our hero into a new situation that seems good at first, until they move into turning point number 2. 2. Change of plans. At some point, the original desire will transform into a very specific, visible goal with a clearly defined end point. This is where the hero's outer motivation is revealed. From here, they will start to make progress toward that goal, until they hit turning point number 3. 3. Point of no return. At this point, the hero must fully commit to reaching the goal. Up to this point, they've had opportunities to turn back. But something happens here that makes this a do-or-die situation. It's no longer a should, it's a must. The hero must burn their old bridges and dive in with both feet, or turn back forever. This forces them to start moving into more complicated situations with higher stakes, which lead to turning point number 4. 4. The major setback. Something happens to the hero, and we believe that all is lost. This event initially leaves the hero with no chance of success, but then we see a small glimmer of light. The hero has only one option. He has to take one last all-or-nothing shot at the desire. This leads the hero to the final push that drives him to turning point number 5. 5. The climax. Now our hero must face the biggest obstacle of the entire story and determine their own fate. The journey of achievement will be resolved once and for all, and the journey of transformation will be revealed. Then we move into the aftermath of the story. The hero's new life is revealed, and the journey is complete. Isn't that cool? Look at almost every successful movie and you will see the pattern of the hero's 2 journeys. When I first learned this whole process, I got really excited. And honestly, a little overwhelmed. So I tried to find a way to simplify it, but not lose out on the key elements needed to cause emotion and create an epiphany. And that's when we created these epiphany bridge scripts that I now use dozens of times a day. If you learn nothing else from this book, mastering this process will serve you for the rest of your life in everything you do. Secret number 8. The Epiphany Bridge Script. Now that you understand the concept of the Epiphany Bridge, and you've also seen the structure of the hero's 2 journeys, we have everything we need to start creating powerful Epiphany Bridge stories. The Epiphany Bridge script follows a similar path as the hero's 2 journeys, but I built it in a way that makes telling your stories very simple. I have this on my desk and I use it all the time when I'm telling my stories. You'll be telling a lot of stories, so mastering this script will become one of the most important things you could ever do. Let me jump in and show you how it works. An Epiphany Bridge story has 8 core sections that pull you through the hero's 2 journeys. I have a question that goes with each section, and answering each question actually creates the story for me. I will go into more depth for each of the questions below, but let me show you quickly how it works. 1. The backstory. What is your backstory that gives us a vested interest in your journey? 2. Your desires. What is it you want to accomplish? A. External. What is the external struggle you are dealing with? B. Internal. What is the internal struggle you are dealing with? 3. The wall. What was the wall or problem you hit within your current opportunity that started you on this new journey? 4. The epiphany. What was the epiphany you experienced and new opportunity you discovered? 5. The plan. What was the plan you created to achieve your desire? 6. The conflict. What conflict did you experience along the way? 7. The achievement. What was your end result? 8. The transformation. What was the transformation you experienced? For many of you, that outline and those questions will be enough to give you the framework to tell any story. But I wanted to dig a little deeper into each question so you have a really clear understanding on how to answer those questions. The backstory. What is your backstory that gives us a vested interest in your journey? Most good stories start with the backstory. For an epiphany bridge, that means remembering where you were before you had your big aha. Go back to that time and place, and remember the circumstances that caused you to start on your hero's journey. Usually this backstory starts at about the same point where your listener is in their life right now. They desire the same result that you have already achieved. But when they see you as the expert and see what you've accomplished, it can be really hard for them to relate to you and trust you. That's why you must come down from your positioning as an expert, and return to the beginning where you were struggling with the same things they are. When they see that you were once where they are now, they will have faith that you can take them where they want to go. Your desires. What is it you want to accomplish? When you created your plot statement, you learned about the 3 foundational elements of every good story. Character, desire, conflict. Here is where you talk about what it is that you desired the most. What most people miss is that there are almost always 2 types of struggles keeping you from what you desire the most: the more surface-level external struggles and, more importantly, the deeper internal struggles that you, and your listeners, are experiencing. What is the external struggle you are dealing with? The external struggle is what drives the journey of accomplishment, the hero's first journey. It's tied to your desire and is usually based on one of the goals you learned about earlier: to win, to retrieve, to escape, or to stop. People are usually willing to share their external struggles. I'm trying to lose weight, but I can't give up carbs. Or, I want to start my own company, but I just can't find the time. But these are rarely the real issues they are dealing with. To find out the true cause of their pain, you need to dig deeper and share your internal conflicts. What is the internal struggle you are dealing with? The internal struggle is the journey of transformation from fear to courage. The hero's second journey. This is the root cause of your struggles. Sometimes it's hard to share, or even know, what the actual internal struggles are. But if you're willing and able to get vulnerable and share your internal struggles, this will build rapport faster than anything else you can do. Why? Because your audience also shares these same internal struggles. Most people never talk about them, but when they hear you get vulnerable and expose what you are really struggling with, the audience will form an almost instant connection with you. I've found that the secret to identifying people's internal struggles is to take their external struggle and ask them why about 5 or 6 times. Keep drilling down until you get to the real reason they want to change. Here's a hint: it's usually tied to love or status, or both. For example, if someone tells you they want to lose weight, ask them, why? Well, because I want to be healthy. Why? Because I have 3 kids, and I want to keep up with them. Why? Because by 5 p.m., I'm completely out of energy, and I just want to lie down. Why? Because I don't want people to think I'm a bad mom. Notice that the first few reasons are almost always tied to status. Why? Because I want my kids to know that I love them. Why? Because I never knew whether my mom loved me. Boom. Notice that this one is tied to love. Or if someone wants to make money, ask, why? So I can get a bigger house, and my wife can quit her job. Why? So that I can provide a better life for my family. Why? Because my kids are in daycare, and I really think they should be home with their mom. Why? Because my definition of a successful family is having my wife stay home with my kids. Why is that important? Because my mom was home when I got home from school, and I want that for my kids, too. Why? Because people may think I'm a bad father if I can't provide this way for them. Notice status reason here. Why? Because I want my kids to love me and look up to me. There it is again. The internal struggle is not that they want to make money, it's that they want their kids and spouse to love them. They want love, security, status. As you're telling the story, touch upon the external, because that's what they're willing to acknowledge. But then share your internal struggles, too. Those people who are dealing with the same internal struggles will have instant rapport with you, and you'll be speaking to them at a subconscious level. They'll be thinking about feelings they've never really shared in the past, but know are true. When you get to the end of the story, typically you've solved the external struggles and accomplished what the hero has set out to do. But for your story to be really impactful, the hero needs to have done more than just accomplish their goal. They need to have become someone different in the process. In fact, sometimes it's even more powerful if the hero does not reach their initial goal. Lightning McQueen didn't win the Piston Cup. Rocky Balboa lost to Apollo Creed, in Part 1, but that is why we love those characters so much. Even though they failed at their external goals, both of them won their internal struggles, the journey of transformation. Michael Hoge said that the internal journey is all about the death of our identity, and the rebirth of our essence. Our internal struggles are about us holding onto these things that we're attached to, such as love, our status, our identity. If you took away all those things, what is left would be your essence. Realizing that your kids love you no matter what, and that others don't really care about your status that much, that is the essence of happiness. So while we want our hero to achieve his goal, it's more important that he becomes someone different along the way. There has been a death of his internal struggles and a rebirth of something more. The wall. What was the wall or problem you hit within your current opportunity that started you on this new journey? The backstory builds rapport with the character, then takes the listener to the moment of frustration that causes our hero to start on their journey. That wall is the frustration you felt because of the current opportunity you have been using to try to accomplish your desires. This old opportunity is not working and is the reason you, as well as your listeners, are willing to go on a journey to try something new. This is what drives the emotion for the listener and sets up the correct circumstances for them to experience the epiphany. Something happened on your journey that has kept you from your desire. The wall is often a point of frustration, fear, or hopelessness. So be sure to spend time here describing how you felt. This will help to get them into the same state you were in when you had your big epiphany. The epiphany. What was the epiphany you experienced and new opportunity you discovered? So far, the hero has been introduced, we know what the ultimate desire is, and we also know the wall their current opportunity has created that is keeping them from their goal. This is the point where something happens that shows them the path they need to follow. It could be a person who helps them understand something. It might be an idea they had while reading, or it could be a breakthrough they discovered while trying to overcome conflict. Something happened that gave them the epiphany, which changed their perception of reality. Now that you've had this epiphany about what you needed to do, what was the new opportunity it led you to? The epiphany is the thought or the idea, and the new opportunity is the vehicle you've decided to step into to accomplish that goal. The plan. What was the plan you created to achieve your desire? Now that you've had the epiphany, and you've learned about the new opportunity, now we talk about the plan you've created to see if this new opportunity will lead you to what you desire the most. What is the plan, and then what are the steps you took to get to your goals? Inside this plan, you are inevitably going to run into conflict, which is where we start to get the emotion from the story. Remember, it isn't the desire of the character that causes the emotion, it comes from the conflict they experience while they are trying to reach that goal. The conflict. What conflict did you experience along the way? After the hero develops a plan, they move forward on it until something happens, they start to run into conflict. We call this the point of no return because before this point, they could have easily just walked away from the plan and things would have been okay. Here something happens where they must either decide to go back to their old life, or burn the boats and keep moving forward. This is where you take the step of faith out into the dark, only to find that there's a light just a little further ahead. Most people are so scared of executing on an idea, an epiphany, that they never move forward. In spite of all the reasons you may have said no in the past, this time it's different. This is when the desire shifts from a should to a must. You move from, I should lose weight, to, I must lose weight. Or, I should start a business, to, I must. This will sound like a battle cry to your prospects because they, too, have been should ing for too long. It's time to finally make the change once and for all. They will see you as someone who successfully took a stand and shifted from should to must. And you will inspire them to do the same. Describe for them the moment you made the shift, including how it felt inside. In all good stories, after the hero has moved past the point of no return, things start to fall apart. They discover the journey isn't as easy as they had assumed in the beginning. If they had known all the pain they'd have to go through, they might never have started the journey at all. Describe the major setback and conflict you experienced that made you feel like all was lost. But then, there was a glimmer of light, one last way you could accomplish your goal. You alter your plan and go for one last final push. The achievement, what was your end result? After your final push, something happens. Either you achieve your external desires, or you don't. Share the aftermath of what happened so people can see the results that you got from the new opportunity. The transformation. What was the transformation you experienced? Here you talk about who you became through this process. This is the resolution of your internal struggles, and is the death of the hero's identity and the rebirth of your new belief systems. As you will see in the next secret, the goal of all good stories is to break old belief patterns and rebuild them with new ones. When you create your stories this way, you are helping people to break free from their old belief systems and create a new future. That is the goal of a good Epiphany Bridge story. The Epiphany Bridge questions. That's the script for writing an Epiphany Bridge story. We've covered a lot here, so you could understand the power behind each section of the Epiphany Bridge story. But remember that stories are simple by nature. You can make stories more complex by going deeper into the settings, emotions, other characters, etc. But at their core, they follow a very simple progression. Your origin Epiphany Bridge story. As I'm sure you can tell so far, each chapter builds on itself, and each secret gives you the next piece you need in the puzzle. So I wanted to step back and talk about a few things, so you can see where your first epiphany bridge story fits. In secret number 5, we talked about the big domino, the one thing you must get them to believe to join your new opportunity. Here is the big domino statement I created for ClickFunnels. If I can make people believe that funnels are the key to online business success and are only attainable through ClickFunnels, then all other objections and concerns become irrelevant and they have to give me money. Now obviously I believe that is true, but why? What was the epiphany I had that made that belief become truth for me? That story, the one that made you believe in your domino statement, is what I call the origin story. So what I want you to do for this chapter is think about your origin story and then answer the epiphany bridge questions. This is the story you will be using often in the sales process, so it's important to take some time and make sure you create it correctly. As an example, I'll tell you my funnel origin story that I affectionately call the potato gun story. 1. What is your backstory that gives us a vested interest in your journey? I was a broke college student athlete trying to make money online. I learned that people were making money selling information products online, so I created a DVD teaching people how to make potato guns and started to sell it. I was using the extra money I made from our potato gun sales to keep wrestling so I wouldn't have to drop out of school. 2. What is it you want to accomplish? I wanted to be able to support my wife so she wouldn't have to work and we could eventually start our family. A. What is the external struggle you are dealing with? The external struggle was that I was only making a few dollars a day, and many days I actually lost money, so I wasn't able to make enough money to support her, let alone a new baby. B. What is the internal struggle you are dealing with? The internal struggle was that my wife was supporting me. I was supposed to be the man in the relationship, but my wife was working 2 jobs while I was going to school, wrestling, and living out my dreams. I felt like a failure as a husband. 3. What was the wall or problem you hit within your current opportunity that started this new journey? The problem was that Google had changed their algorithms and increased their ad costs. Suddenly my little potato gun website was no longer making any money, so I had to turn it off, which literally killed my only source of income. 4. What was the epiphany you experienced and new opportunity you discovered? I met a friend who told me about how he was adding upsells to his products. By doing that, he was able to make more money from every customer who came in, and therefore all his websites started working again in spite of Google's increased costs. I learned that normal websites weren't enough anymore to make money online, you needed an actual sales funnel. So I found someone who was selling potato gun kits, and I partnered with them and started selling them as an upsell. After I added a potato gun kit as an upsell for the DVD, I started making money again. I was spending about $10 a day in ads and making $50 or $60 back. That's when I realized that the secret to making money online was creating sales funnels. 5. What was the plan you created to achieve your desire? My plan was to start creating sales funnels in other markets that had better potential to make money than the potato gun market. I started creating funnels and selling products in the weight loss market. But we didn't stop there. We then created and started selling supplements to people who suffered from diabetic neuropathy. After that, we created funnels in the couponing, dating, and parenting markets, and others. 6. What conflict did you experience along the way? Each new funnel we created took between 6 to 8 weeks to create, on average. We had a team of 8 full-time people including designers, programmers, and copywriters just to get one funnel live. We had to glue together about 13 different products just to create one funnel. On average, our costs to get one funnel live were about $30,000, and then only about 1 out of 10 would actually recoup that money. It took a lot of time and money to find another winning funnel. 7. What was the end result you achieved? We ended up getting so frustrated that we decided to create a platform that would make it really easy for us to create sales funnels. The project nickname when we started was ClickFunnels. We thought if we could build something that would make it possible to build in one day what used to take us 6 to 8 weeks, we'd be really happy. After 8 months of programming and every penny I had ever made, we created ClickFunnels. I can now build in an hour, by myself, without any tech people, what used to take me and my team of 8 guys 6 to 8 weeks, and these funnels run faster and converted way higher. We then started to let other entrepreneurs use ClickFunnels. Within just 2 years, over 30,000 people use ClickFunnels to power their entire businesses. In fact, in 2016, we had 71 people who made over $1 million with a single funnel.